Hello everyone, welcome to Triple T Thursday. That stands for Tips, Tricks, and Tutorials. Today I'm here and joined by a very special friend and guest. This is Justin Moore from Creator Wizard YouTube channel. So most of the time I let my guests introduce themselves because I don't want to butcher it. Because although last week I totally nailed Jessica Hatch's intro, I was really proud of myself, so I'm still patting myself on the back for that, but that's neither here nor there. Everyone, please meet Justin Moore from Creator Wizard. He's going to talk to us today about landing your first brand deal or maybe getting more brand deals in 2022 since that's the year we're in. So Justin, take it away. Why don't you introduce yourself to people who don't know who you are?
All right. Well, Shelly, thanks so much for having me. Stoked to be here. My name is Justin Moore. I'm the founder of Creator Wizard, where I help you find and negotiate your dream sponsorship so that you stop leaving thousands on the table. Is that something you want to do? Because that's what I'm going to help you with. That is the only thing I talk about on my channel is sponsorships and brand deals. So if that's something that's interesting to you, like Shelly said, I would love for you to head over and subscribe. My quick story, very quickly, is that my wife April and I, we've been creators ourselves for over 10 years. We started our YouTube channel, our first YouTube channel in 2009. So before the partner program was even a thing, before you could make money on YouTube, right? This was, I owe it all to my wife, because if she hadn't have started her channel, I would not be doing this at all. Definitely not. And so, yeah, we started, multiple channels, cooking channel, family vlog channel. My wife has a beauty, motherhood, lifestyle type focused channel. It's her largest one. And then about 6 years ago, I started an influencer marketing agency helping bring other creators partnerships. And so I have a very unique perspective because I have, my wife and I have made over $3 million working with brands over the last number of years. And then I've also helped other creators earn an additional $2 million. So this is my thing. This is my wheelhouse.
This is my thing.
This is my thing.
This is it.
I lean into that. And then about a year and a half ago, I started making content under Creator Wizard because I just saw, I've been helping so many of my friends kind of informally, other creators, like via text and getting on the phone. Hey, can you help me with this negotiation? What should I say back to, this type of thing? And I see so many mistakes being made. And I was just like, you know what, let me just create some content around this because people need to hear this thing. And so it's surpassed my wildest expectations in terms of how it's grown. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here.
That's so funny. Okay, so there's actually several points that you've mentioned that we're going to get back to. Number one, people out there, we're going to give a round of applause for Justin for being here. But also, what's it like having one focus? We're going to give an applause for that. Woo, wow, that's so unlike me. That's well done. Well done.
Let's actually talk about that real quick because when I started, I was not that. When I started, I was the business of being a creator. That was my tagline or whatever. Yeah. And I thought that was specific. I was like, that's super specific.
Not so much, huh?
Yeah, I can talk about, email list growth, and I can talk about other, diversifying your revenue as a creator and all this stuff. I love talking about that stuff, but eventually it was just too confusing to people. And I was just like, I don't know. And then one day it was an aha moment. I got a DM from someone that follows me. And basically she was just like, you should just talk about sponsorships. That's all you should talk about because that clearly is your biggest strong suit. And I was just like, okay.
Though, it's so funny. Other people see things in us that we don't see, right? So a lot of the time I'll ask, friends, I was talking to someone today. I was like, what do you see me as? Because I can't see me. Very John Cena. I can't see me. Okay, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second here.
Please.
We're going to play our game, which we always play every Thursday. Okay. I don't know if you know the game or not. The game is What's in Your Cup. So everyone out there, you have to then let the class know what is in your cup. Today, I'm drinking H to the O.
Oh. Okay,
yes.
Well, I am
what do you
drinking H to the O with
a hint of flavor.
Non-calorie sweetener or whatever.
No, you know what though? I love sparkling ice. The whole talking about sparkling ice, the 0 calorie. I call them sodas, and my husband is always like, "That's not a soda," and I'm like, bubbly, fizzy, flavored. Tastes like soda to me. I call it soda. So, okay, audience out there, I know someone's drinking coffee, someone's drinking tea. Put it down below what you're drinking. Let us know. Okay, I think it's so funny what you said, though, when someone else is like, oh, you should just talk about sponsorships, because behind the scenes, I've actually, way back in the day, which was a Wednesday, when I was in coding school, we were all trying to figure out jobs, right? And so we were interviewing at different places. I was helping girls behind the scenes, renegotiate their offer letters and send them back to the companies, right? Or I have creator friends, so it would be like, hey, you know what, you should ask for more money, or something like that. And so it's like, I've been doing this for everyone but myself. But I'm so glad that you're here now to help me myself. So one of the very first things that I'm going to say is, do you think that a channel has to be a specific size or have a specific, like amount of audience before they should ever think about doing brand deals? Like, how small is too small?
Well, Shelly, it's funny you asked that. Because
it's like it was planned or something. Like, what?
Yeah. Well, no, I joke because I recently made a video on my channel called How to Get Sponsorships with 0 Subscribers. It's obviously very hyperbolic, but, I made that video because it's like, I get that question all the time. Is like, a lot of people feel like there's this arbitrary number that they have in their head. Like, oh, once I hit 10,000.
Once I hit 1,000. Once I hit 10,000.
Yeah, once I get
right?
monetized, like whatever. It's some goal in their head that they made up. It's arbitrary, right? And maybe, toxically, one brand said like, oh, you have to have, maybe someone told them once upon a time, like, oh, we only work with creators over 10,000 followers or whatever. And so that was like in someone's mind. And like, I hate that brand because it's like, that is very, very, disruptive to what should be your mindset as a creator in terms of when you can work with brands. And so essentially my advice is that it doesn't matter how many followers you have. And let me explain that. So I have an anecdote. So because I run the agency, we have done literally hundreds of campaigns, and you would be very surprised because oftentimes what happens is that brands, they're very specific about the types of creators that they want to partner with. Oftentimes it has nothing to do with how many followers they have. It's like, for example, we were working with a major telecommunications company, like a wireless carrier, and they found that their product and their message was resonating with the FIRE community, like financial independent, retire early. And so that's who they wanted to target. And so one of our tasks as an agency was to go out and find creators who fit that bill. And one of the creators that they loved the most was get this, Shelly, their niche was budgeting for active duty military. So he had less than 1,000 followers, less than 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and yet the brand paid him very handsomely. And what did the brand do? This is the reason. Like, I want you to really pay attention here, everyone listening. What did the brand do with that content? They turned around. Yes, he posted it on his channel, but they turned around and they cut it and repurposed it as an ad. Right
now, if they're going to do that, right, and I'm sure that you talk about this a lot when you talk about a lot of the red flags and maybe some of the things in a contract that you're going to look for. And I know that you have a lot of information to share on this. And anyone who's watching this, Justin has an email list that you should absolutely subscribe to because he sends you, you can tell them, you send them out weekly emails of brands that are willing to pay and work with influencers looking for people, correct? It's like people looking to work with people getting brand deals. He's giving them to you free weekly. So go sign up down below. Right?
For real. It's literally a free newsletter. I send you sponsorships. So you have no reason not to sign up. Just go to creatorwizard.com/join. But you're exactly right, Shelly, is that, all of these things that brands want to do with your content, like usage rights, like using it for paid advertising, maybe embedding it on their website. That's very, very valuable. Like, real quickly, think about if the brand didn't hire you, what would they have to do to get that content? They would have to go out, hire a production company, hire an ad agency,
hire a director, hire talent and makeup and wardrobe and lighting.
Exactly. And then not only do they have to produce the content, but now they got to pay Instagram and Facebook to serve the ad. Right? So as a creator, not only are you the creative services, right? You're the production team, you're the editing team, you're the marketing team, but you have a distribution channel where you have a bunch of followers. Even if you don't think it's very many, you have followers that you can distribute the content to too. So think of yourself as a production company in a box, and you should price yourself accordingly.
Right. And you know what? I think a lot of the time, some brands, not all of them yet, and we are coming to a day and age where they're starting to realize that influence is not always the amount of followers that someone has, right? We'll have people who can buy followers. We'll have people who, have audiences that are not engaged. We'll have Instagrammers who are complaining on live that they can't sell 17 t-shirts even though they have 400,000 followers, right? And meanwhile, you may have this 1,000 follower active retired military savings person who is exactly the demographic that you're going after. You could not pay that in advertising to get to that targeted anymore, because I know Google and YouTube have really kind of taken some of that away, that funneling down. So if you think about it too, there's a lot that you have to offer, whether it's your experience, your video editing skills, your distribution, your reach, your all of that. And even if you think that your audience is small, let's not forget that even if you're good at creating content, you could license it to that brand. They can use it on their Instagram. They can use it on their website. They can use it in their print materials. So you could be basically the photographer and videographer that they hire as an outside source at a much cheaper rate than if they had to go to wherever they're hiring their people usually, right?
Yeah, and real quickly though, like, we're not talking about cheaper here, Shelly, okay?
I didn't say
you're
that.
Not necessarily cheaper than you. Maybe the brand thinks that, but there's a lot of advantages that you have as being a creator because you have a much more intimate knowledge with social media. So your value proposition shouldn't be, hey, I'm cheaper than the ad agency or whatever. No. Like, you can lay it out. It's called value stacking, right? It's like you lay out all the different things that you're going to provide to them. Yes, the investment is going to be X, right? But anyone listening here, no, you're not cheaper. Maybe you are, but that's not something that you volunteer when you're actually putting your proposal together. And I want to real quickly, when we were talking about niches, everyone listening here would be like, oh, like active duty military budgeting, that's super niche. Like, I don't know, right? And you would think that would limit your opportunities. Like, that would limit the amount of sponsorships you could do because you're just so narrow. And it's actually the opposite, okay? Because if you are making content that is literally the same as hundreds or thousands of other creators, it's so much more difficult for a brand to understand why they should hire you because you have no differentiation, right? But when you're very specific, you're going to actually get more opportunities. I can personally vouch for this, having run an agency, is that it's the creators who have a very unique creator identity. Those are the ones where it's like the most it's the most obvious for the brands to be like, oh yeah, right, that's an interesting diverse person, let's like go work with them.
And I think it's funny because if some makeup company is saying like, hey, we want someone who does special effects makeup that's all cruelty free, that is like really well versed in this type of thing, you're not just gonna go get like some multi-million one who does every new launch that comes out. You know what I mean? Like, having specificity on what you do and what your audience is can be very, very valuable to a brand looking to hone into that audience. Now, one thing that you did say that I want to like put a little light bulb in is you don't say it costs this much, right? You always say the investment is this. And I think it's really important that we start talking about phrasing. And phrasing is going to be a big key, not only when it comes to in your contracts and distribution, but what are some of those, phrasing keywords that we're also going to be looking for later when we get into red flags, like things like we've talked about it a million times in perpetuity. I know you say perpetual on yours. I am always like, anything that says perpetuity, we're just like, that's a big red X right there, unless it has multiple zeros after a whole bunch of like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we start talking about there. So we're going to get into some of those red flags as well. So one thing, the answer is you're never too small to start thinking about brand deals. So the person who came out with, you need 1,000 or you need 10,000. Maybe for them, whatever, but not for us. And I will say, when I had 700 subscribers, one of the first things that I was doing, I had a makeup channel and I was trying to get all of these different foundations and get them sent to me. Because at that time, I was willing to make a video in exchange for a $50, $60 item, right? Because I was under 1,000 subscribers, but I wanted all this product for free to make more content. So I went, and this is what I did at the time. I went to Instagram and I went to Sephora and I went to Ulta and I looked at every single makeup company. And I looked at all of the ones who had foundation, because I was doing a foundation series. And then I wrote a personalized message to all of those brands, anyone who sold on those sites, and said, I am doing a series about foundations. I would like to try this specific formula, this thing, and I will make a video in exchange. Would you guys send me some? And I went until I was locked out of DMs, and then I went again after that, and I sent out like 100 and some messages, and I got like 7 yeses, which is actually not bad. But like, even that is technically a brand deal, right? Where you can start to go out there and get them for yourself. So some of these brand deals start with very small instant messages or DMs, right? And that's one way. But then another is like, find the person on LinkedIn, go to headhunter.io, find out their email address. How would you start to approach, if you don't have a lot of brands coming to you, what would you say are some kickstart ideas to go out and start working with some of these brands?
Yeah, so I mean, there's some very, very low-hanging fruit here when it comes to this. The first thing I'll say is that you need to be following everyone in your content vertical and engaging in their communities, because the best way to figure out what brands are working with creators in your niche is like following everyone and start to see who they're partnering with, right? Because it's like that brand is obviously already understands the value of working with creators. So that's like a really easy way to like make a short list of like, oh yeah, like this brand partnered with this other creator. I think a lot of like people think that they look at everyone as competitors and it's actually,
I call them niche neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. It blows my mind because it's like, look, when that creator gets a brand partnership, that is a good thing for you because guess what? They're not just going to work with that creator. They have marketing objectives. They need to grow their customer bases. So they're trying to find lots of people to partner with. So if that other person gets a deal, hey, guess what? Next month, that might be you. And so by following these other creators, and this is the key, is really becoming a known quantity in their comment section. Every time they get a deal, hype them up. Congratulations. This partnership is so perfect for you. Yada, yada, yada. If you start doing that for months, and then when they finally get a deal that is like a perfect brand for you, you won't feel as awkward sending them a DM and be like, hey, congratulations on this partnership. Would you be willing to introduce me to the brand? Right. Yep. And if you're putting in the work and you have a good, visual identity and, the creator, a big part of it is the creator needs to feel comfortable making that introduction. Right. So you have to be putting in the work on your own.
They're putting their name on you, their reputation on the line.
They're putting their name on you. Exactly. So you have to ensure that, if they're doing that, that they feel comfortable doing that. Right. But like all these pieces come together. And I talk about this like value thing. Don't just go out the gates. Hey, can you introduce me? No, it's about giving value first. It's about saying, hey,
I was saying you can't take like withdrawals out of a piggy bank that's empty, right? You got to put the money in first.
Thank you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I think one thing that you already caught on to right there is look at especially if you're active in your niche and you're cheerleading for others and you're happy about it. And if you're starting to look at what did they get that is #sponsored, #ad, #affiliate, because all of a sudden you know that those are companies that are spending money on influencers, right? So once you're also friends with them, and it's not just like, it is kind of friends with benefits, and if you think about like recruiters or like people at PR companies, they're just, they're friends with like wallets. They can be, like, you don't have to be adversarial to them. Like, it can be okay. And like, hey, they also see that you're cheerleading for them or you're sharing their sponsored post or you're saying, hell yeah, girl, go get it. Or guy, you did it. Good job for you. And I've also had things where in my past, people, companies would come out and be like, hey, you have this phone grip. We want to, do this. And I was like, you know what? That's not really in my wheelhouse, but I've got 2 other friends that do that. And then I would introduce them via email to these 2 creators. So I'm making that recruiter's life, I'm calling them recruiters, just go with me on this. You're making the recruiter's life easier because you're giving them contacts to people that they don't have to go out and find, right? Mm-hmm. And then you're making the other friends happy because you're now referring them business or money or something. And if it's actually a whole small incestuous incubation period, eventually it's going to come back for you as well. And that's 100%. how I believe. And that's not thinking about scarcity. It's about abundance and for everyone else and being happy for them. I was like, I could take this little, it was like a phone grip case thing. And I'm like, I could take this video and take a few and maybe sell a couple. But I was like, why not give it to the person who has a phone grip channel or like a phone accessories channel? Why wouldn't I want to do that? And also like have some goodwill with that recruiter so that the next time, I've had ones where I introduced someone to a microphone company and they're like, that worked out really great. Do you have anyone else? Which makes me feel good knowing that, hey, I put my name on someone and it went well, right? I would be more willing to maybe do it or not do it again for someone else. So those are the types of things, because if something else comes up, I know that friend might have my back on something that might be good for me too.
100%. And I think at the end of the day, sometimes, it comes down to like gaining the confidence to actually make the ask. I think a lot of times, especially when you're starting out, like it's kind of intimidated. It's like, especially if you do try to do, send out some DMs or some cold emails to a brand on their press, email on their website or something, and then you don't hear back, and it's just like, it doesn't feel good. It's kind of demoralizing, and it's like, I don't know if I want to do it. But my biggest tip is like getting at least some repetitions under your belt, even if it's for free product. Like, obviously I'm a fan of like being compensated for your work, but like, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with like, getting some experience, like even if it's getting a product. Like I got a free wine fridge the other day, Shelly.
Awesome. Those are like $400.
This one was like 800. So
oh my gosh, like see, right? And I'm like, that sounds pretty good.
Dual zone, right? So I was like, yeah, I'll talk about it in the vlog. Like, why not? And so it's like, even today, today we've done hundreds of brand deals. It's like, if it was something you're going to buy anyway, it's pretty expensive. Why not? Right. The key there is that there's not a bunch of talking points, right? There's not a giant brief. There's not all these requirements that they're like, you're beholden to. So that's a little bit different. I have actually a whole course called Gifted to Paid, helping you transition free product offers into paid partnerships.
That is a harder one
to do that.
Absolutely.
Yes. That's like a big hang up for a lot of people. It's like, how do I just get all these free products? And I just like, How can I get paid?
It is a tougher jump, right? And especially once you start seeing some of the people where they're like, oh, well, the brand said all of these X influencers do it for free, or they do it for a commission code, or they do it for a coupon. So why should we work with you? So when you are starting to make that transition, let's say it is from, free product to other, there's going to be some brands that maybe you worked with before where all of a sudden you're trying to ask to change that relationship and it becomes a little different, right? So do you have any advice for navigating let's just start with, how do we even start working? Would you advise working in exchange for product at the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's what we did initially when, it's funny, the story of progression, like my wife started out, it was a makeup channel, beauty channel, same thing. Like she was just stoked to get free product. Like that was, because you couldn't make money in 2009 on YouTube. That was like not a thing really. Right. And so like getting a bunch of free makeup and stuff, that was like jackpot for her. But then when the brand started knocking and like saying, hey, like we'll actually pay you, but still there was lots of free product. It wasn't like obvious that, we could figure out a way to like transition that. And we were like, I got to be honest, like I was trying to help out, but even it was the Wild West back then. No one knew what the heck we were doing. And so it was like this, we weren't super strategic or about any of it. Right. And so like I said, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with doing partnerships for free product as long as there's not this like laundry list of things that they're asking you
I was
to
just going to get to
revisions.
requirements.
Yeah.
Requirements and revisions. Anything that starts with an R is going to require compensation. So what I used to then start when I was transitioning, some brands would reach out and be like, hey, can we send you this? And so starting to have verbiage that would be like, you can send it. If I like it, I might talk about it. There's no guarantee that I talk about it. If you need guaranteed placement, then we need to talk about a trial period for me to, do that. And then there's going to be rates involved. And then there's going to be talks about usage rights. And then there's going to be, I don't like to have revisions in any of mine or pre-approvals. And so that's definitely cost me before because I don't want them to have to approve anything. But I also don't want revisions because a lot of companies will go overboard with revisions. So I'll say like, if it was factually incorrect and I said it was 10 inches wide when it's really, 3 inches wide, I will go make that revision. I'll do a voiceover, I'll do an on-screen text. But otherwise, if it's just, you don't like what I said and you would rather I don't put out the video, then you can pay me for the video and I won't release it. That's even another option or something. But if it's PR, especially in the beginning, I'm like, it's not going to be guaranteed and it's not going to be absolute anything. And as soon as you say, these are the talking points, this is how long it has to be, this is how many posts, anytime there's requirements, then I'm going to be like, let's create a package. Maybe it's a TikTok and an Instagram post, or maybe it's a story and a TikTok, but it's not like an in-feed static post. And I think one thing that a lot of people haven't really wrapped their head around too is none of the prices are set in stone. You should always offer a package and you should always try and negotiate these things, right? And if you have a success measurement and it goes well and they come back to you, be like, hey, my prices have raised, right? Some of these things are important to kind of think about. But yeah, as soon as there's requirements, I'm just like, oh, that's a whole other ballgame. That's one of those red flags for me. So I don't know if you have some specific red flags that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely, well, first of all, brands not wanting to formalize the partnership in a contract, that's a huge red flag for me, right? They're saying, oh, we'll just use this DM conversation as proof or this email thread or something. We don't want to do a contract, this type of thing. Like that's for sure a red flag. What I have found is that the likelihood that you will ever like actually bring that brand or the agency to court is very low if there is some sort of breach of the agreement. But articulating everything in the contract in terms of the expectations on both sides, what you're agreeing to do, the deliverables, the rights, going through that exercise to actually like articulate all that stuff, just that exercise itself, and then both of you signing on the dotted line, even if it's virtually or digitally, is a very big part of like ensuring that we're all on the same page here about what I'm going to be doing for you and what you actually are going to be doing in return. Right. And so I think a lot of creators are intimidated by this. It's actually tricky because especially when you're starting out, and the brand says we don't have a contract. It's like, well, I don't want to go out and hire a lawyer to make this contract because I'll lose all the money that I'm going to be making on this deal. It's like maybe it's like $200 or something. And it's like meaningful income for me. But it's like I don't have the income to justify that. And so the advice that I always give there is if you want to make money as a creator, OK, there are going to be things that are business expenses that are a cost of making revenue, right? You probably buy camera equipment or you buy new laptops or editing software or whatever, right? You look at that, oh, yeah, that's like a justifiable expense because I can like make the content, right? If you want to make money from sponsorships and brand deals and you don't have something as basic and fundamental as a contract template that you can easily edit, okay, maybe you don't touch any of the, maybe it's a 10-page contract, you get your lawyer to bless it, you don't do anything with the first 9 pages, and all you do is you edit the last page, which is the appendix, okay, and it says what you're going to do, the usage rights, all the key stuff, exclusivity, what you're going to pay me, payment terms, etc., right? You need to go out there and hire a lawyer to make that boilerplate template for you. That is even if you don't have a brand deal right in front of you to like justify an immediate ROI. It's just like any other business. You have to invest things like this to be able to protect yourself so that when you do partner with brands, it's not going to cost you. So it's like you need to shift your mindset around like what is a justifiable expense as a creator. And this is one area that I think a lot of creators need to revisit.
Do you think a lot of people have their own boilerplate template contracts, or would you advise going with the one that a brand will send over?
Yeah, so I mean, typically, especially when you start to work with larger and larger brands and agencies, usually they will have a contract template that has already been blessed by their legal team. And so that makes the contract approval process, and even if you do red lines to the contract, which means like you actually make some language revisions and stuff like that, even just you can do red lines, but it makes the contract approval process so much quicker because their legal team has already kind of like blessed the main bones of the contract. Where having a template can really come in handy is especially when you're starting out, when you're working with smaller and medium-sized brands who may not have worked with a lot of creators in the past. They don't really understand what should be in a creator contract. So it's like the onus is on you to have something ready in that situation where there's a brand that doesn't have one. Because everyone thinks like, oh, like every brand does influencer marketing. Every brand works with creators. There are tens of thousands of businesses every day and brands who've literally never worked with a creator. So it's like you need to be prepared to like have something to give them if you do want to work with them.
For sure. Now, one thing that I do want to ask you, when you're doing an exchange sometimes with brands and you're starting to have this conversation, media kits, do you believe in them? Should you have them? Should you send them? When should you send them?
Okay. All right, Shelly. I don't know what advice you've previously given about this, so maybe I'm going to like
ruffle some
feathers.
The wrong
way here, ruffle some feathers, but I do not believe a media kit is necessary to like of the last 100 brand deals that my wife and I, obviously it's a little different. We're a little bit more established in our careers, but like of the last 100 brand deals, a brand or an agency has asked to see our media kit maybe 5 times. So it's not very frequent. However, let me put a caveat on that. The exercise of creating a media kit is very useful. Yes. The reason is that it helps you clarify your creator identity, right? And you can all of a sudden, if you have to sit, if you got a blinking cursor on your screen and you're like, and it says about me, and you're like, well, crap, like what type? Who am I? What type of content do I create? What is my value proposition to a potential brand partner? What is the composition of my audience? I'm not just talking about demographics. I'm not just talking about where they live. No, I'm talking about like what makes them tick.
All their psychographics.
Yeah, all their psychographics, exactly. Because at the end of the day, a lot of creators don't think about this. The reason that a brand wants to partner with you is not because you're an awesome creator. They want to access your audience.
It's business transaction.
Exactly. It's a business transaction. You are the conduit.
It's the advertising to the direct audience that they want. That's what it is. Like, let's make no qualms about it. Like, you can be friendly or even sometimes friends with some of them. But what it is, it's a business transaction. They want to move units or sign people up or sell something or whatever it is. That's what they're trying to do. And they're hoping to do it through your audience.
And talking about, you're just mentioning about pitches, like so many people make this mistake when they pitch. They're just like, hi, I love your brand. I'm Justin. Here's my channel. Would love to collaborate. It's like, are you giving the brand any indication of who you are? What the, like, you know, what the, like, do you understand anything about their brand, their marketing objectives, what you can help them accomplish? Right. Also, what that does is you're basically putting the ball in their court and being like, hey, think up an idea for us to work together.
I know, right? And it's so much easier to say like, hey, I have a foundation series. I want to test foundations. I have a specific product in mind that I would like to test. This foundation, I will make you a video in exchange. You have to give them something it's really easy to like say yes to. Exactly. Like the more hoop jumping, like no.
Yeah, and not only that, like the likelihood of them just saying, sure, let's do it is low, but you just have to give them something for them to wrap their mind around. It'll be like, well, you know what? We're not doing any YouTube campaigns right now, but we're actually trying to check out TikTok. Like, do you have a TikTok? Like, would you be interested in, right? So it's like,
right.
you probably will pivot into something else, but that's not the point. The point is to just like put something on their plate and be like, what do you think? Right.
And I think it's something, it's interesting because I always know that having a media kit technically is a good idea. I've never, actually, that's false. I do have a one-pager about myself with just some basics, demographics and audience breakdown and, by country and by gender and then also like just some social stats from different websites, like 192 million Giphy views or whatever else it is. Ooh, yeah. So something, I love that one. Right? I'm going to teach you how to make those.
Yes, and I know, real quickly though, just before we move on from the media kit thing, I just want to say one thing, which is if anyone listening here does have a media kit and you have pricing listed in there,
take it off.
Please remove
Take
that
it off
page.
because it should be a negotiation.
Exactly.
And it should be based on a package, hopefully. Yes. And there should be, I will say, back from my training as a salesperson, I will say there's usually a good, better, best type of solution. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them will take the middle option. But you can't do that if you're like, my price is X for a video. Right. My price is X for a mention. Right? And I'm like,
not only that, Shelly, what so many creators do is the brand reaches out and they're just like, oh, we'd love to collaborate with you. What's your rate for this, whatever? And the creator will say, well, usually my rate is X.
Right, when they negotiate against themselves.
Minus Y. It's like, no, you tell them your rate and you shut up.
And I'm always like, here's the thing is, it's not my job to save your company money. If they're like, oh, that's too expensive, we're like, okay, let's not do a YouTube video. Let's do just a TikTok, or let's work backwards if we want to, but we're not going to sit here and be like, you know what I mean? So I'm all about that life too. So
yes.
Yeah, usually you don't want to just have that number and throw it out there. So I will say I did go through the process of having, I guess, a media kit.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No one's ever asked to see it, but they like to know that I have one. It's like that little flex. I'm like, oh yeah, do you? I don't think they've ever asked, because by that time they've probably already looked at you and vetted you and seen something that they liked.
Right.
Otherwise, they may not be approaching you anyway.
The other thing though is that you can use it as a lever. So there's all sorts of psychological things that you can do and tactical things that you can do. So for example, we do have a media kit, and one of the most effective things that you can do if you do have a media kit is have testimonials in there from your past brand partners. And at the crescendo of the campaign, when you make the post, you basically say to them, hey, loved working with you. Would you be willing to share a 2 to 3 sentence testimonial of your experience working with us that we can include in our future media kit?
How easy I was to work with. I delivered on time.
Yes. 97%
surpassed sales
of the time,
expectations.
they're going to say, right? And so we add all those testimonials to our media kit. We make case studies, et cetera. And then at a critical point in a negotiation, maybe the brand has become a little bit less responsive, or maybe this is a tool that we use when we're trying to, get a recurring deal or something. You use it as a lever, and you basically say, hey, just wanted to check in, see how things are going. Is there any additional information we could provide? Also, if it might be helpful in your conversations with the brand, like if it's an agency,
I have references.
Right? Here's our media kit where you can see some of the testimonials and case studies of past brand partnerships. So it's like, there's all these like little things that you can do. And so like for those circumstances, I am a fan of having it, but not as like the other thing too is like, if you're doing a pitch, don't attach it to the email of the pitch, especially if it's the first one, because all of these brands have email firewalls and filters that block unknown recipients, especially if it has an attachment. So
well, it's also like you're coming on a little strong. It's like a first date, maybe coffee, and you're like, and here's the wedding certificate. And you're like, dude, what? Can we just get to the part where I swiped in a direction for you?
Although I did tell my wife like shortly after meeting her, within a week, that I wanted to marry her. That was a little.
But that was a week.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
That's a week. A week is pretty quick, right?
But it wasn't the first date, right? That's like, oh no, he's gonna kill me. Like 1 week is like, oh wow, look at us. What a fun story.
Yeah,
Still different.
Yeah, I did come on a little strong though. She'll even admit that.
Right.
Hey, but it worked out.
It worked out.
It worked out, right? So
$3 million later. There you go. No, not for the wife. I meant for the brand deal.
Oh my goodness. Yes, for the brand deal. For
the brand deals. Okay, so what would you say for people out there? Are there some green flags out there for some of these brand deals? I know we talked a little bit about red flags, right? If they have a laundry list of things, if they say the words in perpetuity, which just means forever, y'all.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to have an escape clause, not only in like how long something has to live on your channel, but like what happens if that particular company or company owner all of a sudden gets embroiled in some sort of scandal that you don't want your name attached to. I've had friends in this situation right now where they're under contract for a year and they can't even say anything bad about the company for a year while they're still working with them. Their audience is starting to turn on them because they refuse to talk about this person who they did a collab with this year. You know, so it's how do you have some of these red flags or like work through them?
Yeah, it can be tough, and you're right. I mean, I think a lot of creators don't think about this piece about how to protect themselves in these scenarios because they just feel like, oh, this brand wants to work with me, I'm so lucky. Like, and when in reality, these types of things are like job interviews. You should be interviewing the brand just as much as they are you, right? So you have to have language in the contract that protects you too, right? And so that's a perfect example of like, you know, like something that you should have in your contracts, whereas you can, you know, if the brand is sullying your name and reputation, that you have an escape clause too. When it comes to green flags, I would say, you know, brands who afford you a certain degree of creative latitude, like it's very clear from your initial conversations with them that they value that part of like the collaboration, is a very good sign, because those are the brands who really understand what you're bringing to the table. They understand and respect the intimate relationship that you have with your audience that you've built up over many years. Those are the types of brands to really prize and to treat well, because, you know, not every brand is like that, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's like a really critical thing to understand. And you can start to ascertain these by asking questions to the brand, right? A lot of creators don't ask questions. They just be like, okay,
they just want to take the money and run,
or
the product and run.
Right? And it's just like, you know, like just like have some semblance of interest in like what the brand's trying to accomplish, like asking them questions about their marketing strategy, all this stuff. And this comes with experience, I understand, right? But at the same time, like, how can you possibly know how to forge a successful partnership with them if you are not asking them about them, right? It's all about like, oh, what are you going to do for me? How much are you going to pay me? How much work do I have to do as a creator? It's like, no, like if you, especially, I have this saying, like, creators fire themselves from their 9-to-5 job every single month. They work at the brand and then they never talk to them again. It's like, are you an idiot? Like, no, like go back to the brand that you just worked with and try to forge an ongoing partnership. Right? Creators, just for some reason, they feel like they have to just hustle onto the next deal. It's so much easier to convince, you know, brands and clients that you've already worked with, and that you already have illustrated to them your value about why they should continue to partner with you. I have a really good anecdote about a creator that I was helping with a negotiation just a few days ago, that a brand reached out to her and she, you know, expressed interest in partnering, and the creator had a very one-track mind about how this partnership was going to go. It's like, I'm going to post on my platforms, yada, 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 you know, Instagram, designing all these like complex packages and all this stuff. And I was just like, let's take a step back here. Let's understand what the brand is trying to accomplish here, because this all looks great, and I'm sure we could do this, but let's try to get in their head and understand where they're coming. So she hopped on a phone. She said, hey, can you hop on a call with me, the brand? She was really nervous. And the business owner essentially admitted that they were really unhappy with their advertising agency, and they had recently fired them. And the business owner said, would you be interested in taking that over for me? Right? And so it's like, all of a sudden, it turned into this like multi-$1,000s a month thing for the creator, whereas had she not taken the effort to just like be even a little bit interested in like where the business was, this opportunity would have like, because again, on the other side, the business owner may have been too shy to like ask if this creator would even be interested in this. So it's like, you never know what's going on the other side of the fence. So like that's,
and usually they're not out to get you. It's like, you guys want to cohabitate correctly together so you can grow together, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. I see a lot of this. One thing that really grinds my gears, Shelly, is I see a lot of creators on like TikTok and YouTube and stuff who are giving advice around brand deals and sponsorships and stuff, and like, bless their heart, like I you know, I like they're trying to help and stuff, but like they cast the brand as villains. They're like, oh, it's like, oh, like you
us versus them.
Extract as much money from the brands as you can, and like, you know, they're the enemy and they're trying to screw creators and like, you know, all this stuff. And it's just like, I get it, that's their brand. They've like chosen an enemy that they are trying to get their audience to like, but like, I come at it from a very different perspective. Like, I do not believe that brands are the enemy. I think the things that you can co-create with brands, there's a lot of amazing brands out there who you can do amazing things with. And so I think it's really important not having this like brands are evil mentality going into negotiations, because hey, guess what? If you think brands are evil, then, you know, that's what's going to happen in the negotiation. You're going to think that everything they do is evil. Every revision request is evil. It's just, a lot of it comes down to mindset.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. And I think that some brands absolutely get burned by influencers. You see it all the time. Like, I sent hundreds of dollars and I'm a small business and they promised they would make posts and they just took the stuff and never even posted, or, all the stuff. So a lot of them are probably very leery too, because all they have are influencers knocking at their door all the time being like, can I get free this? Can I get free that? And them not seeing a lot of return on all this stuff that they give out. So I'm sure some of them are a little bit scared of us too. I mean, us as in influencers. One thing that I think would be a good starting point for anyone trying to get their first brand deal this year or get more is to really think about, what do they use? What do they like? What is their dream company that they would like to collab with? And kind of keep those things in mind, because if it's, I really want to go after this athletic lifestyle type of thing, that's what my channel's all about, then maybe like Carl's Jr. Bacon Burger things is not the right, you know what I mean? I'm just saying, pick some extreme example, or like your barbecue channel and, then, but you're a vegan channel and you getting a sponsorship with a barbecue grilled ribs place just because they're willing to pay and get to your audience. If it's against what you're actually about, that's also not great, because then you lose your audience and the authenticity and the relationship you're building there. So I think it's really important for you to be like, if these are the top 100 companies that I want to work with, why am I taking things that either don't align with that because it's not just about a quick buck? I think that's a really important kind of distinction to have, is if this is what I want to be known for, then maybe I shouldn't be doing these types of things just because they're willing to pay. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you have to, you can do long-term lasting damage to your creator brand by doing stuff like that. And it's just like you're taking it for a quick buck, and then it's like you're tanking your credibility and your integrity with your audience. It's just like totally not the right move here at all. And real quickly, you were mentioning about, like keeping in mind your dream brands. And I do want to clarify something here and just kind of talk about this, because I hear a lot of creators, especially when they're starting out. I think it's great to have big dreams, like for sure. Like I'll be the first one to say that's awesome. But one thing that I think is really important when you're starting out is to have realistic dreams, not just about, if you're just starting out, it may be difficult to get a deal with Nike or Coca-Cola or something like that. Right. And so it's like, understanding what brands are partnering with creators at potentially a similar level that you are in your niche is a really good way to start, because you don't want to get demoralized. You want to get some repetitions. You want to start working with, there's lots and lots of brands out there. Like, one of my favorite examples of this, especially if you're starting out as a creator, is there are so many brands and businesses in your local community that could use your help, right? The local Philly cheesesteak shop, or the local mall, or the local whatever, right? They all need they need help with their social presence. And yes, it's a different strategy because it's not a national audience, right? But what a fun challenge, right? You have to figure out, okay, I'm going to make TikToks for the local, strip mall, or I'm going to whatever. Like, there's so much opportunity in your local community to help brands like grow their social strategy, and they have money to do this. They need to bring people into their brick and mortar locations, right? So it's like thinking a little bit smaller and maybe thinking a little bit more locally is a really great way to like start getting some experience and income, like working with brands.
Absolutely. I think that I once was thinking about pitching that for vertical video for local businesses about how to teach business owners to create it so that they could repurpose it for Instagram. This was at the beginning of like lockdown, when a lot of restaurants, and you were seeing a lot of the news starting to be like, all these companies are going under, and it started happening in town, and being like, what if we could go in there and teach them about how to, show these meals, and then, they're on Uber Eats or DoorDash and all the things. Like, wouldn't that be cool if we could give back in that way? I had pitched it as a project for a company, but it didn't quite go the way that I thought it would. But even that, right? If you want to think local and everything. But my intention with like, think of your dream board is at least you have a starting point too, like things that you're already using, because if you have experience with those things and those brands and those things, that's type of like putting in that ground legwork, hopefully, for making those relationships and contacts or talking about those things. So, I think people have on my channel, they know that I would probably never take an Audible sponsorship, because I up and down talk to people about Libby, this free library app or something. And so like, I think for people for the last 2 years who know me would be like, you're totally selling out if you're talking about like Audible now, and so like, but you know what I mean? Yeah,
100%. And the other thing too, is that like, joke about this thing called the brands in your house audit. It's very similar to that. It's like, go around, like go to that corner of your house with like the products that you're using. And it's actually take it a step further. One of my favorite things that I teach in my course is actually utilizing organic content that you've already posted in your pitches. So I have a pitching framework called the ROPE method. R stands for relevant to a campaign that the brand is working on currently or have done in the past. O is organic, meaning you can actually tie your pitch back to organic content that you've already posted. P is persistent, meaning you're actually following up multiple times, even if the brand's not responding. And E is easy to execute when they say yes, right? So if the brand replies and is like, okay, yeah, like where do I sign?
Let's do it. And you're like, oh no.
Do it, right? And the organic piece is the most critical because it's like, how much more powerful is it if when you send your pitch, it's like, hey, I noticed that you were posting about XYZ on your Instagram last June, right? I also have posted about the Mediterranean diet, and then you link the post, right? And so, and then you go into the pitch, right? But you made that post 2 weeks ago knowing that you were going to pitch that brand. That's what I teach. It's like you have to be a little bit more strategic about your content strategy. Let's double it. You have to be more strategic about your content because okay, like I'm going to be pitching these other brands. I'm going to start making some posts, integrating this, talking about this because again, this is a brand and product I already love and use or software or whatever. Yeah. And then I'm going to use that in the pitch. How much more powerful do you think that pitch is versus, hey, I'm Justin. I love your brand. Will you collaborate with me?
Or how much more powerful is it when I made a Tarani syrup pump TikTok that has 225,000 views now, where they actually approach me and be like, hey, can we have this? Or I'm be like, yeah, for a really sweet package of like syrups and caramel because I'm running low over here. I'll send you an original file. So like even stuff like that. Or if you could say like, hey, and I've sold 99 of them on Amazon, just FYI. Or whatever else, it is like how much more powerful is that when you talk to that brand about here's some sales numbers, here's some like visual proof socially about what I was able to do to bring brand awareness to you. Yep. And I think it's something that's really important because if they have a strategy around brand awareness or moving units or something else, right, some other thing that's coming out, you can be like, hey, here's how my content fits in with that. Or, we could make something, we could collab on something because my audience already responds well to this. Wouldn't that be cool if you have something coming up to bring that in? So I think sometimes even having content for a company that you want to pitch in the future, great plan. So I'm going to switch us over real quick. We have a couple of questions from the audience.
Yes,
are you ready?
Let's do it. Let's do it. Rapid
All right.
fire.
So, and also for anyone who's tuning in now, there is a free email list that Justin puts out every week about brands that are he's already vetted them. These are brands that are willing to work with and pay creators. So that's a lot of the legwork done for you. And he does it for free and sends it out every week. So go sign up for it. The link is the first one in the description, hopefully. So I think, Dutch Can Jam had come in and said something about, are there any online resources for contract templates or specific content to content creators for using as a starting point? Or I know you have a 4-week course. Is that something that's included in your course if people were interested in that?
It actually is. So the one caveat that I will give, and that I have to make a disclaimer, is that I'm not a lawyer. I have reviewed literally thousands of brand deal contracts, so I can definitely feel confident talking at length about them. But I do always think it's important to make that disclaimer is that if you are able to, like I said, go out and invest and hire a lawyer to actually make the contract template for you, or have a lawyer that you work with on, they get percentage of the deal or something. There are, lawyers out there who exist. But it's really, it's really critical to understand the actual what I think is most important is that I would never sell the contract template alone, not in the course. I guess is what I'm saying, is because you need to understand.
You need to understand what's in it and the nuance.
You need to understand what's in it and the nuance. Otherwise, it's a terrible idea sending out a contract because if you don't understand it, you're not going to utilize it properly. The biggest and most important thing that I'll say, like a mistake that a lot of creators make, is that they actually wait until they receive the contract from the brand to start questioning some of the deal terms. Like all of these things, usage rights, exclusivity, paid rights, like, the deliverables, like all this stuff, those all have to be negotiated before you get the contract or before you send the contract for the brand. Because what actually happens is that, especially, let's say the brand came to you, the moment that you get the contract, that person has already told their boss that you're locked in for this rate. Okay. And then because they had to go and like go say to the legal team, hey, okay, we're done with this deal. Can you go make a contract for this creator? And then what happens is that when you get the contract and you'll be like, oh, I forgot, like, you know, it says exclusivity. It says, oh, I should go get one of my 3 cats.
Oh, this is Cooper, by the way.
Hey, Cooper, what's going on, bud?
He's just, he's like, if you, oh.
Oh. Sorry, I'm talking about contracts here, bro.
He's kind of an attention monger, and if you don't pick him up at some point when he wants, then he's just going to let you know about it. So.
Oh, my God. That is so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try and keep it a little mellow, Cooper. Sorry, bro. Man, I can't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, just generally, like, you have to ensure that you're negotiating all this stuff ahead of time, because if you then all of a sudden come back and be like, hey, like, we need to like renegotiate this language or whatever, then that contact has to go back to their boss and be like, hey, I know I said that they were locked in, but they're not. Like,
and you don't want to do multiple rounds of it, right?
Yeah,
because then you wear them down and you have the chance of them just being like, you know what, this creator's not even worth it. It's just juice is not worth the squeeze.
Exactly. And like you want, the whole goal is you want to make your brand contact win. You want to make them look good. And so doing things like that does not make them look good.
Right. But I think some general things that you're going to need to look at, and then hopefully they'll be included in your template or wherever when you go out there, you're going to need some basic boilerplate things, such as, when are you getting paid? Is it a net 30? Is it half up front? Is it only that and commission, coupons? Like, that's important. Or like, when are the dates of the deliverables, and do they have to have approvals? And if they have approvals, how many rounds, or who owns it? Is it going to be on their socials? Is it going to be on their website? Maybe that's going to cost extra. Is it going to be content that's only for them? Is it going to be on your socials? Does it have to live forever? Is it a story, right? When can you take it down? If there's exclusivity, like, I can't have any other company work with them for how long is that? You know, you don't want like 5 years or for life or something like that, because it's going to cost you, right, literally thousands from not being able to collaborate with another company because you didn't read your contract.
I had a creator agree to 5 years exclusivity on a free mattress.
Yeah. I saw that in one of your videos, and I was like,
free
on,
mattress.
right?
It's like, but, you know, unless you're informed and you're like, maybe because you're subscribed to Creator Wizard and to Shelly, you know not to do these things, right?
I'm going to slap you and be like, stop it. Stop it.
No, but
you saw perpetuity and exclusivity, and you were like, let me sign for free product.
Another one is termination clauses. So like a lot of brands will put into their, like, we can terminate this at any time without cause, like for any reason that we want to. Yeah. So what happens when the brand, you've already created the content, you haven't posted it yet, the brand decides, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. They're within their right with that language. So you have to have language in there that says, hey, if you like certain like milestones, if you've already created the content, and, you know, they decide to terminate without cause, they still owe you the full amount. Like things like that you don't think about, but stuff like this happens. Like I'm not joking. Like we've worked with some pharmaceutical companies in the past, and any of you who've like worked with that or understand that process, it's like the legal compliance stuff to like work with a pharmaceutical brand. It's just crazy.
I mean, if you can hear their legal jargon that they have to spit in there, the mile a minute, can you imagine what they have for other stuff?
Yeah. And so it's like we've had multiple times, Shelly, not just once, where we've created all the content, and during the review round, legal team just decided, you know, we're no longer going to pursue this, and they paid us the full amount. This was like $20,000.
You know, back when I used to sell real estate, there is a clause actually in the real estate thing that says like, hey, if we sign this contract that says we'll sell your house for, let's say, $250,000, whatever, that would never happen now in Seattle. It's like, here's a tent. Right. And we bring you a buyer who's willing to do that, but you just decide for some other reason not to take the deal. You still owe us the sales commission because we were able to find a buyer at the price that you agreed to. Even something like that specifically, even if they don't buy the house, it's still in the contract, you know? And those types of things and escape clauses and, you know, am I required to talk about these talking points? And at what point do I have to say it in the first 30 seconds? Or, you know, like, what does the FTC disclaimer look like? Because it has to be there, you know? You know, and that's a huge red flag right there. If some company tries to be like, you don't have to hit that, like, you know, subscribed button. You don't have to put this hashtag. You don't have to run, don't walk. Because they're just, you know, or things like, you see a lot of like, buy this on Amazon, we'll reimburse you through PayPal. Ooh, yeah, right? Right? And I know you're really into Amazon video now too. And I know you had a contract that fell apart in your video. If you If you guys haven't seen it, there's a great video like how he lost $24,000 in a brand deal, and there was maybe something about exclusivity, and so that is something. Right?
Exactly. Like this is real stuff. Like this
is all real stuff.
Right?
This happens. So I didn't mean to give away the whole. I really meant to go tell people to go watch that video, and I think I just gave it away.
I actually think no, not at all. I actually think the story is useful. Like looking at the emails back and forth. Like, I actually show you the emails from the brands and like the back and forth and what we said, the negotiation, all this stuff. I think it is quite illustrative to like understand how some of these negotiations take place and how like kind of your mindset going into it as a creator.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other big success stories that you want to say about like maybe ongoing relationships that people have been able to form with brands? Because I know sometimes when you stop thinking of them as adversaries and you start thinking of them as friends with wallets, you want to be nice to your friends with wallets because they have the ability to get more budget, get more bills in that wallet, or you know, 100%. Remember that they don't like you. And a lot of the time they end up going to other companies, and all of a sudden that company that you want to work with, they're not going to work with you because that same recruiter, representative, whatever, is like, oh, they're so difficult to work with. They make it so hard because you had to win on something that maybe didn't. So do you have any awesome stories about relationships where it went well and they just like repeated?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, actually just today, Shelly, it's not quite that, but like it's a good example of this is that we had a brand reach out to us, or a prominent agency, and they said that they had this budget. Like we were trying to say under this budget, right? And it was significantly lower than what we would typically charge for that statement of work of those deliverables. And so one little trick I say is I literally ignore the budget. Like, you know, I don't care what that you told me that. Thank you. I asked for it, but really what I don't care. And so when I put together my packages and things like that, pretty much every package is over the budget. Yes, there's one that's close to the budget, but again, with the goal, it's like actually anchoring them to go towards some of the higher packages. And so they came back and, ooh, magically, maybe we can do some of these larger things. And so one of the things that I did is I said, hey, so it's a timely campaign. It's just something that's happening like really quickly. And so I said, hey, I understand this is like, we got to get this going. I'd be happy to jump on a call. Let's just kind of like hash out these details. And so jumped on a Zoom with them about 2 hours ago, literally, and came away with a deal that was more than 2 times what they initially wanted to pay.
Congrats. That's amazing.
So thank you. And so it's like the point here is establishing rapport works, plain and simple. Right? Like once they get the face to the name, they understand, they can hear a little bit how you're going to bring the campaign to life. So many creators are just so scared of this type of thing. And the goal is not to go on the call to like tell them the rate. Like, it's not to say like, hey, this is how much it's going to charge. No, it's again, going back to earlier, it's about just talking to them, being a person, listening to them, acting interested in like what they're trying to accomplish for their brand or their agency. It's as simple as that. Right? And so doing things like that as a creator will instantly differentiate yourself from everyone out there who's like has no interest in this type of thing. I always say, don't be a creator. Don't just be a creator. Be a consultant. You can go into these brands and help them do really fascinating things that you may not have thought like, you know, they would value before.
Yeah. I think it's totally also in the wheelhouse sometimes too, your scope of work or whatever, even if you think it's outside, to be like, hey, I saw that you guys did this campaign. I think it would be really cool if you tried something like this. And if you are that consultant role, you did that for free. And then, you know, you build some goodwill with them, or, you know, build more rapport. And I think that it's okay to do that. I really do. And 2 things I'm going to talk about a little bit when it comes to money, right? I know you talked about it a little bit too, is you don't discount against yourself. You know, usually it's X, but yeah, you know, so I'm really like, don't discount against yourself. And maybe you just change the package. Maybe you change the offering. You know, instead of a dedicated 5-minute video, it's a 1-minute mention in the middle of a video or something like that for that budget. Here's what we could do. You know, change it around. It doesn't mean no. It maybe just means no to the initial scope of work, right? So negotiate that. The terms are usually negotiable. Another thing I would say is, in my humble opinion, I believe that other influencers, creators, whatever you want to call us, we should be open and transparent with each other about working with brands and how much sometimes budgets are. Now, caveat being, if I have a very specific targeted thing and I'm coming with an audience of a different size and I'm talking to a buddy who's also talking to them, I can understand why they might get more or less than me based on many multitude of factors. So it's not like, well, I heard that you're paying Justin $1,500 and I'm worth $1,500, right? Well, Justin has way more subscribers and, you know, sways slightly more male of this age demographic. It makes sense, right? So I'm not talking that, but I am talking about how I've had a friend be like, hey, have you heard from this company? I'm like, yes. And they offered me X. I'm like, oh, that's funny. They offered me nothing. So obviously they're willing to pay, but only in certain, so like that kind of thing, though, you don't know until you have a conversation with your friends. So I'm always in the let's be open and honest and talk about it. And my feelings don't get hurt about like, why would they offer Justin more? But I would be curious, like, is there something I can discount, not, in the package, or, do less work because they wanted a 5-minute video and they're going to pay us different. So I say, I want the same amount of money or less money, but you don't get a 5-minute video, you get this.
Yep.
Right.
100%. Like you don't just discount for no reason. If the brand just comes and says, oh, well, we don't have that much, can you do it for 2,000? You can say, I can't do 2 posts for 2,000. I can do 1 post for 2,000. It's like you reduce the deliverables. The other quick thing about the community aspect and like talking with your friends is it's absolutely critical, Shelly. And it's even more than that. It's actually, you need to surround yourself with creators who are business minded, because a lot of the times, maybe you have a group of friends, but you probably know some of them aren't super business savvy. So you maybe shouldn't take business advice from them. It's important to like have, like, that's one of the reasons why I created my course in the community, because I really wanted to like create a destination and a beacon for people who really are taking their creator businesses seriously. Because there are people out there, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's like, they kind of treat it primarily as a side hustle. They want to keep their 9-to-5 job, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I tend to see that people who don't really take it as seriously, they're willing to make lots of concessions, lots of discounts, because it's like they have another income, that they don't need to like, so they don't necessarily need to like fully advocate for themselves. But when this is like it's on the line, it's your full-time thing, even for side hustle creators, like you have to understand, like, do not discount the value that you provide. That is not something you need to do. And you need to be surrounded by people who understand that, like, maybe walking away is a better choice here. Yeah. Right. And so,
especially if they're unreasonable in what they want from you.
Yes. Totally, 100%.
And you know what? And I think that if you don't have that conversation open honestly with your friend, I had a friend who wanted to go do a sponsorship with the same company I had done a sponsorship with. And when they were asking me, hey, can I send my draft over to you about what I'm going to send them? I was like, oh, you should, double your rate, because I can tell you from personal experience that they paid me more than what you're asking, and your audience is a lot larger than mine, And so having a friend to be like, hey, here's an extra few $1,000s, because it was an extra few $1,000s a month. Right. You wouldn't know unless you asked a buddy who was open and honest with you about it. And when they got a contract for even more than that, I was like, well, 1, you're welcome, and 2, you owe me dinner. And that's
like legitimately, I truly do not look. So many creators tell me I'm just not a good negotiator. Like, I just will never be, like, I just can't do this. And it's BS. Like, anyone can learn how to be a better negotiator, but it takes investing in your knowledge. Like I said, so many people just like invest in courses. I mean, in, equipment and computers and camera gear and all this stuff. And it's just like if you want to do anything, you grow your career, like if you want to become, get some sort of professional certification, you go out and you take a course, you go out and you do this. But somehow for creators, it's like, there's like a stigma on it. It's like, well, I don't know. Like, is this course really going to be worth it? Like, if you could take a course that could help you transform from like going to charging $1,000 or $500 a post to $5, like, don't you think you would do that? Like, that is literally my pitch for my course. And it's like, I really truly have no problem talking about this, being very clear about it, because it's crazy the amount of like money that some people are charging for like, I have a creator, Shelly, a TikTok creator, who went from making $1,400 to $2,000 a month, and now she's making $40,000 to $50,000 a month, literally after going through my course. So it's like people you have to understand what you're worth, and if you don't you're leaving so much money on the table, and there's just absolutely no reason to be doing that. Like, invest in your knowledge. I'm begging of you, please. Right. I don't care if you do it with me. You do it with anyone. Just like, please invest in making yourself better as a creator, because it's going to behoove yourself for the rest of your career.
I think there's a lot of, when we'll come back to imposter syndrome, and we'll kind of close this out, of people, because it's tied to subscriber number, and they think that is somehow indicative of their real influence, or of their, shininess to a brand. I don't know, however you want to say, or they're willing to do like tons of things for very little money, and it becomes, they just don't believe enough in themselves, or have enough definitive proof that they're worth more. So I think that's one thing that's really great about when people start watching your videos and understanding, like, what are these red flags, and what is the verbiage that they use, and what kind of tactics, what are they saying, and how are we leaving money on the table by saying the price up front, by sending the media kit too soon, by only quoting one price and not doing packages, by not following up with brands that we've worked with before. All of these things, right? And it's because we either have no experience or we're just not believing enough in ourselves that we're worth a better experience than what we're settling for.
100%,
right?
Shelly. Yep.
Okay. So is there any like last advice, stuff that you want people to take away from this particular session?
Yeah, just get started. I mean, you know, I working with brands, I think can be very overwhelming and intimidating. We've talked about a lot of strategies and tactics today, and like, I think, you know, one of the things I've heard a lot is like a lot of this stuff just takes confidence, right? And when you don't have that, when you haven't worked with a lot of brands and you're trying to just get your very first deal, it's easy to talk about this stuff, but it's just like pressing send on that email or pressing send on that DM. It's really intimidating. And so my sincere advice is just do it. Shoot that shot. Closed mouths don't get fed. You're never going to know unless you ask. And if they say no or they don't respond, you're literally no worse off. Right. And so
exactly. It's just a conversation, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's just a conversation. And I think people build it up to be so much scarier than it is. And it really, at the end of the day, is conversation with your buddies and friends about how much are you making. Hopefully you have good buddies and good rapport with them. Conversations with like, what's your end goal? What's your budget? What's it cost you not to have a successful campaign? You know, those types of things.
Totally.
Like, right? Like, what are you trying to get out of this? Maybe this isn't even the right package for you. Maybe what you really need is this, you know, or doing that consultant stuff.
And the other thing too is just like, in addition to the just ask, it's like, look yourself in the mirror. Like the expertise and the knowledge that even if you think you don't have that many followers or subscribers or whatever, the expertise that you have is actually very valuable. Lots of brands have no idea what they're doing on social media, and they're looking to you. They could look to you to be like, hey, help us figure out YouTube or help us figure out TikTok. How many brands' YouTube channels have you looked at, gone to where it's like their 30-second TV ads?
Well, they're
all
awful,
that's on there.
Right?
Yeah, and that's all that's on there.
But some of the time too, they're freaked out about like, I don't know how to do TikTok, and you're like, oh, I'm just this girl with a phone, but you're like, hey, I've got this video, it's already done, and you can have it for your TikTok. Wouldn't that be awesome, right? Like when you're making it really easy for them to say yes, and you're making your representative or recruiter look good. You make it really easy for them. Like, hey, here's 5 pieces of content that you guys can have on your channel. You don't even have to like put my name on it. Just buy these pieces from me. It's still a strategy, right? It's 100%. Absolutely. Okay. Yep. Where can the people find you if they want to connect with you, if they want to, you know, get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So I'm at Creator Wizard pretty much everywhere on social media. My YouTube channel is Creator Wizard. But mainly, my newsletter is the best place, I would say, because I know you probably say like email, seriously, Justin, but truly,
I don't say that at all.
I send
my
you
channel members
deals.
know.
Yeah.
I did an entire private video just for them about how to set up like a MailChimp landing page and start their own YouTube email list. I was like, I'm all about it. It
is owning your audience, I call it. It's like, you know, you want to be able to be insulated from the ups and downs of the algorithms on social media, right?
And if you have something to sell, actually, statistically, it sells much better from an email list than ever putting it in a video.
100%. It's just like, so yeah, my newsletter is like my baby. Like I love that's my favorite. I tweeted the other day, I was like, I've been a YouTuber for 10 years, and I'm finding myself spending most of my time in ConvertKit these days, which is my email client. So it's like, you know, I love the newsletter. It's like, you know, like I said, there's free brand deal opportunities in there. So creatorwizard.com/join is the newsletter. And then like I was mentioning my brand deal wizard course, I have it's cohort based, so I only run it 3 times a year. It's live. I teach it over Zoom. It's a 4-week program, again, where I teach you how to find and negotiate your dream sponsorship so that you stop leaving money on the table. And it's a blast. This is my 5th cohort, I believe, that I've run, and so it's just getting better and better. The creators in it are absolutely incredible. I think it's going to be capped at 50 creators this time, so the cohort sizes are getting larger. Like it's a really amazing transformative experience. And so if any of you guys are interested, the enrollment actually opens on Monday on January 31st. So you can just go to branddealwizard.com if you're interested.
Awesome. I've been part of a few programs where they'll be like, hey, while in this cohort, our students have gotten this much in brand deals, or they've done this much in sales. And I think it'd be really cool. I don't know if you have that yet, but you should like collect the numbers and then be like, our students, while in this one, you know, we closed this much in brand deals while still students or something. Dude, that'd be like awesome.
I love that. Okay, Shelly, see this little black box behind my this little thing? That is an LED ticker. Okay. And I have created a goal for myself as my new mission. I'm going to help creators big and small land 1 million sponsorships by 2032. And this is going to be my live counter. So I'm still trying to figure out the tech side of it, of getting the API and getting it all on there and everything, and leaderboards and all this stuff. I'm really excited about it. And so that is my mission. Like I'm really excited about helping everyone win. And so, yeah, it's just, I love that idea, because that's where my brain is at right now, is like, how can we all win together?
Right? Yes. And have it be like cheering for each other. Like, hey, we're getting to the $1 million mark from all of the students or all the people getting these deals. Like, what can we do to get there? I remember when I was at TubeBuddy, I was like, I think it'd be really cool if we saved people 1 billion hours. How can we, broadcast that and get everyone to 1 billion hours? So for you, for $1 million, I mean, at least if your students are telling you, right? Or I mean, sorry, 1 million in sponsorships. Oh, 1 million sponsorships.
Which is a much taller order.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? If it was something you can be like, oh my gosh, every time a ticker, like everyone should be celebrating, because what's good for someone else getting sponsorship means there's another company out there believing in investing in creators. That means another company that maybe would invest or look at you in the future. It's good. It's all good,
Yes, absolutely.
I always say there's no one success pie. No one's taking your slice of pie. There's plenty of pie.
rising tides
lift all ships. Absolutely. Justin, thank you so much for being here on this week's episode. So happy that you were here. I am going to hit end, but hang around so I can say goodbye to you. I've had some people just like, boop. So, but we will say goodbye to all of the people watching. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another episode of Triple T. Have a good one, everyone.